Hereby call the February 28th, 2023 agenda review meeting to order. Ms. Bowie, would you call the roll, please?
Good afternoon. Pete Wildebohr,
Present.
Pat Bradford,
I am here.
Josie Barnhart,
Here.
Stephanie Craybill,
Here.
Melissa Mason,
Here.
Hugh McManus,
Here.
and Stephanie Walker.
Here.
At this time, I would call for a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion. Approve the agenda.
Ms. Walker makes a motion to approve the agenda. Any second? Second? Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Craybill?
Where, if we're approving the agenda and we wanted to, do we wait till if we want to add something, do we get down to the proposed agenda items before we add?
Yes.
Okay.
You mean for next week? Yes.
Like, so, we would talk about it under item 5, is that right?
Correct. That is
Okay.
correct. Yes, ma'am. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. At this point, we will have our invocation. If you would please join and stand.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to open today's meeting in a prayer. My name is Christian Rutherford, and I'm the youth pastor at Harbor United Methodist Church, as well as one of the pastors of Serve Church here in Wilmington. Let us pray. Jesus, we thank you so much for this day and this opportunity for us to gather together in this space. We ask that you would give us the wisdom, the discernment that we need to make critical decisions that are going to impact the lives of our children and our youth in the city. Keep our hearts open and our minds open to being receptive. Give us grace where we need to be given grace. And just allow this meeting to move with fluidity and at peace. Lord, we just love you. We thank you for everything that you are doing and the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Amen.
Amen. I've asked Ms. Barnhart to lead the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We are now on number 5, which is review of proposed agenda items. Board members, you have the agenda items in front of you for next week's meeting. I will kind of read down. If someone has a question or wants to discuss something, please just feel free to stop me, and we will stop. So again, on next week, we'll have the call to order, the roll call, the approval agenda, the invocation, presentation of colors, national anthem, the Pledge of Allegiance. We've allotted 10 minutes for recognition and introductions, the March recognitions and administrative introductions. Next, we'll have the superintendent's report. How long will you need, sir?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. So we'll put 5 minutes there. I also will take 5 minutes for the chairperson's report, call to audience. We were hoping to go for 60 minutes there. Then we'll have the approval of minutes, information. And again, please stop me if you have any questions on any of these.
You have to lift your head up, too.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So in the call to the audience section, I would like to propose again that we read the rules of decorum before we enter into that, that the board chair reads those rules of decorum and not the person who's calling out their names, so that we can, everybody, you set the tone for what we expect, so that I think you might feel more comfortable in asking folks to sit down and to stop, if we let them know ahead of time with that. And then along those same lines is that maybe leading up to that call to the audience, those same rules of decorum could be posted on the page where people sign up. So they have to read them and before they can come in. And I think that was the intent that Ms. Walker had when she brought this forward, and then make it as an attachment, you know, so that it's out there clearly on what you expect and what the board expects. So that, I just wanted to, I don't know, to add that in.
Mhm.
It's not part of the agenda, but it's just part of making that happen.
Anyone else's thoughts on that? If not, I have no problem doing that. And actually, I'm glad you stopped me because I'm running down here. We do not have, and I wanted to talk to Malcolm, are we going to have student voice? Because I had asked, we had that, you know, that's supposed to be, are they going to be?
So, yeah, they haven't been able, due to their schedules, they haven't been able to convene a
Okay.
public meeting time. Yeah.
Okay, so they will not be speaking this. Okay, thank you. I didn't want to not have that on our path. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Craybill.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
yes,
sorry, if I could just go back to recognitions and introductions just very briefly. 10 minutes is probably adequate, because as I'm looking at who and what we're celebrating, it's a big audience, up to 70 folks coming in, and a lot of that's the wrestling team, and we're going to recognize
yeah.
44 nationally board certified teachers, and also heroic life-saving measures by the Laney Athletic Director. These are big celebrations, so I propose if the board's willing to allow at least 15 minutes for that, and we'll try to.
I would rather say, let's do 20. So
Okay.
let's change that to
Thank
20.
you.
Unless anyone has a problem with that, but I mean,
We can always get done early.
I love to celebrate, so that's wonderful.
Fair enough. Thank you,
That's
sir.
great. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Anything else? Nope. We'll carry on then. Under information, we have
Mr.
change.
Woodward, under the minutes, on what we were looking at before, the attachment, it was saying that we're going to approve the December minutes, but we're really going to approve the January minutes, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And did the change that, or the addition that Josie asked for, did that make it? Does anybody know?
No, because it's not posted as December, it's not posted as January, because they're still filling it in, but it's posted as December, but that was just probably because it hadn't been deleted from the last meeting.
Okay. Carrying on, we have information, changing the path for our low-performing schools, anti-bullying practices. I think Mr. McManus had put that on. Ms. Walker had done the first one. Board of Education member
I have a
expectations.
question.
Yes.
We want to know what, so that we can prepare, what do we, is there anything specific that?
Yeah, and I do applaud what you've done. I'd just like something considered written consequences for bullying, so that there's no doubt that the expectation and the consequences are above and beyond, and everybody knows what they are, rather than leave it, someone has to determine the different personalities for different situations. And we can deal with that, of course, but I just, something in writing.
So we have, as a part of our discipline policies, we have a specific protocol for bullying and bullying investigations. Do you want us to share that as
Would you
the
please?
information? Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
We just got a letter, I think today, from a parent at Eaton, and so that's been on my mind all day. So that's just perfect timing.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
When you pull it up in Assembly and you're looking at, we have everything on the left is what we're doing, and on the right is the backup data. I would like to suggest that under the department and staff that we also include Ms. Barnum or whoever else is appropriate in the school district, and not just have Mr. McManus leading the discussion, because he's not able to give us an update. So it's just a matter of semantic.
Okay, that's a great idea. Let's go back, I should have gone step by step, changing the path for our low-performing schools. Do we need to allot 10 minutes for that, do you think?
I think
15?
10, 15, let's say 15.
15, all right. The anti-bullying practices, Ms. Farnham, how long do you think we would need for that?
To answer the question on policy, protocol, investigation, consequences, probably 10 or 15.
All
Is there
right,
any
we'll say
questions?
15 again. Board of Education members?
Mr. Wilbur?
I'm sorry.
On that one, just to be consistent with the others, what is the action that we're intending? Is this just information? It's under information, but sometimes people sneak in, they want an approval of some sort, and we don't normally approve in
No,
information. We're
no.
just getting info.
Right.
So I'm just clarifying, making sure.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Barnhart.
And so I know Board of Education member expectations was on here, but the policy is on our policy committee to be reviewed as part of NCSBA. So I think it's going to be more appropriate to discuss this after we meet in policy next week. So I'm just giving everyone a heads up. I'll be motioning to postpone that for.
Item C?
Why don't
Yes.
we take it
Why don't
off?
we
if
just
we're
take it
not
right
gonna
off?
talk about it?
Are we allowed to take it off right now?
Yeah, let's do that.
In the agenda?
So we'll
Save 10
delete
minutes.
C. And Life Act, we talked about that, that probably should be maybe a 5-minute, Ms. Marno, maybe 10 minutes? With what you're gonna share with us?
The anti-bullying piece?
No, the Life Act,
Oh, yeah, that's, I mean,
good news, but yeah.
We didn't know who did.
Oh, we've talked.
Okay.
Yeah,
right,
he's
so,
on
I mean,
point.
do you want to keep it on there after I give you the update? Or do you want it on the agenda?
I think we should be on the agenda and you just share with.
Okay,
share with
2
me.
minutes.
10, all right.
Yeah, not 10, 2.
Oh,
2. It's
Two.
really quick.
Let's go 5.
Do we need to look into anything
Mr.
before
Chair?
then? Do we need to
Ma'am.
do anything?
I'm just waiting to be recognized.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Not
come.
you, I was just saying, there's a lot of crosstalk.
Yes, ma'am.
No, so that was an agenda item that was added. Are we replacing it with different information?
The Life Act one?
Yeah.
Oh, well, she's gonna share, share with you, so I think.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just,
So it won't be actually, maybe that.
okay, so it's just
Yeah.
for information.
We're gonna leave it on there, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is it supposed to be called Life Act, or is there another word for, is there a better word for that?
Yeah, I'll be speaking about what's in the works between the public health and Novant.
Okay.
So it's not LifeVac.
Yeah.
Okay, so what should
It's an
it
Do you know the name of
anti-choking
it?
device.
Sorry?
Anti-choking device?
Yeah,
Anti-choking.
there you
All right,
go.
We'll change that to anti-choking device. Choking device, and I do see you, Ms. Crable, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that was my point, but was my question is that I was hoping that Ms. Barnum would also, number one, she should be added to the department liaison because she's giving the report, not Ms. Walker. But do we have a recommendation from our public health department and our school nurses? Because I would hate for us to try and make a decision without having the appropriate resources. So it sounds like we're adding that in.
We chatted that, so we'll change C, because we've gotten rid of C, so C is now the anti-choking device. Carrying on, then we have the consensus items, personnel report, contracts, and purchases report, budget amendments, disposal of surplus property, finance. Do we have any questions on any of this? Yes, ma'am, I'm not looking up as much
No,
as
I'm
I
waiting for
should.
you to, I'm waiting for you to roll down.
Okay. Financial audit contract, MOU with Western Governors University. Nothing new, okay. Right-of-way and easements to the city of Wilmington for the portion of Greenville Loop Trail at Bradley Creek Elementary School. No. Temporary construction easement of the city of Wilmington for drainage improvement along McMillan Avenue at Winter Park Elementary School. Going right along, good. Consideration for bids for Irwin A. Alderman Elementary School window and door replacement. Next one that we heard about yesterday, which was pretty exciting, the high school esports. Any questions about that?
Can that
Yes.
go under new business?
I'm sorry?
Can that go under new business because there's a
New business,
presentation?
okay. Absolutely, we'll move, so we're moving J down to new business.
So there'll be discussion at that point.
Yes, ma'am.
So that'll be D under new business.
That was what my request was going to be as well.
Okay. Then the E-rate network equipment will be our J. Wide area network contract, L. Summer testing high school.
Yes, that, if you were, I saw you look, so, we brought the summer testing for elementary, so now we're just adding the high school. We had time to work with high school principals, and now we're adding the high school, so it's the same format, it's just adding the high school component.
Okay, so it's information. It's not
It's
something-
just consent.
Okay.
We don't need, yeah, just something we have to send to the state.
Okay, so
I have a clarifying question. But
Please do.
Is that approved with ESSER funding, or does this run out after this year?
No, it's something that it's something that, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll leave that, the consensus items at 5 minutes. Old business, third grade literacy. I'm looking at you again, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at somebody over here. Yes,
I
ma'am.
know, if someone can tell me, who put that on and what, exactly what you want.
Is that what I've been trying to bring? Okay, that was just simply, where is it?
Right here, third grade.
Yeah, but it was, I actually wanted to make a motion to increase our student reading proficiency by 10%. What we've been talking about all this time, we've
Right,
never
so-
gotten around to making that motion, which is what I'd like to see happen.
Okay, so you don't need a presentation, you're just gonna make the motion from the previous presentation that we shared?
Technically, we should have done it, but it was just so jumbled
Okay,
last month. we
okay,
just
so I don't
didn't
need to prepare anything,
No,
okay.
ma'am.
Ms. Craybill?
I had clarifications on that. So again, on the right-hand side, that the person who would be I guess Pat is presenting the information, but I have a problem with us not having a presentation and a discussion when we already have a literacy plan that we have approved as a board and that we have submitted to DPI. And so I'm just wondering why we're changing why we would even talk about changing something without having a discussion about how it fits in with our strategic plan. Because that's not a best practice for a board, just to make motions from the dais could be completely contrary to what our strategic plan says. So I would like to see more of a presentation, and I don't know what Ms. Bradford wants to see, but it's, we already have a literacy plan, so your motion would be to either change the literacy plan, follow the literacy plan, or something like that. So I think we just need to be clear.
We actually had the presentation last month. We just skipped over, I think it was actually on the agenda, we skipped over me having the time to make that motion. And it was sort of a pressure cooker night, and Pete meant to get to it, it just didn't happen. So we're coming back and doing what should have been done last month at the end of our presentation. We've already had the presentation.
My
Ms. Walker?
concern still stands though.
Ms. Walker?
So I'm curious, are we voting on something new or something we've already voted on? Maybe Dr. Facer, Dr. Faust, I don't know what we need to prove that we've already discussed. I mean, what are the intentions? Like, do you have a plan for what, a timeline, or like, I don't know. It just says third grade literacy.
Right, and this is like the third or fourth time we've tried to do this, and Dr. Faison has answered all the questions, and it is to bring the literacy for third grade up. And remember last month, she showed us how we got to that 10% number? Do you remember that part? It was very creative.
I just don't know why it needs a vote.
That's my part, is that the point was, we've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, but it doesn't, I'm trying to understand why we need to vote on a separate third grade literacy plan when we already have it. We already have a literacy plan and we have a strategic plan. So if your intent is to change the strategic plan, then I would like to see what your intent is in here, so I have a chance to look at it before we bring this motion up, because it's just not best practice to spring this kind of stuff on the central office staff and fellow board members.
There's no spring in here. We've been at this for months,
But what are you suggesting other than those words? That's what I want to get at.
just everything that Dr. Faison proposed last month is the byproduct of us talking about this now for months. In the beginning, back in December, I wanted an accountability standard that we could hold to, so that we would, a bar to meet. And she's done an excellent job of bringing that to us. But I just never got around to making a motion to put that into play. So it's kind of like coming back around. I have no intentions of upstaging this or changing that. There's no nefarious motive here. It's all very simple.
Now, I'm not talking about nefariousness. I'm talking about helping me and perhaps our fellow board members understand what you want to change. We already have a literacy plan and a strategic plan, so I don't know what we're voting on. And I want to see what you want,
Again, my intent back in December and then January was to instruct the staff, or instruct the superintendent to instruct the staff to create what Dr. Faison created and then presented it to us last month.
Why does it need a vote? That's what
I'm just
since we
wondering
know
why
the
we have to
plan, the
discuss it. We
plan
already
is.
have a plan.
Mr. McManus?
Maybe I can answer this. What she presented, which was dynamite, and Barrett was overshadowed by the latter part of the meeting, but was super, is my understanding in place, is an active,
What do we need to approve?
an active program. So I think the question is, now I'm confused, what part are you not sure about? Because it is an ongoing continuation of what she presented.
At the time I first brought it up, the school administration wasn't positive we could hit that milestone. But Dr. Faison has figured out how to do that since I brought it up. So technically, we're there, but it just felt like we needed to solidify it so that we had a standard, so that when we hit that magic date, then they're gonna be able to say, look, we did it. That's all we're trying to do.
Pretty much, if I could add my interpretation of this, basically putting a line in the sand, saying this is what we want to do. I had a wonderful superintendent I used to work for that said, at the beginning of every year, you have to set goals for, and I know we already have some goals, but this is like a third grade reading goal. You can say, this is where we want to be. And it's not with any penalties if you don't make it, but obviously third grade reading needs to be, in my humble opinion, needs to be a huge focus for us. We need to get to the point where we are improving students. Some other counties that I used to work for, actually, they were able to do that very thing and turn their whole district around. Yes, ma'am.
Well, it says 15 minutes also. I
No,
guess,
it didn't need but like 2 minutes.
okay, so that's.
Unless y'all want to discuss it ad nauseum after I make the
Okay,
motion.
so that was the confusing part, because we already have a plan, we've already had it presented. You just want an official vote on it?
Yep.
Okay, so let's change that to 5 minutes then.
And I would like to change the description,
I'll get your, yes, ma'am.
sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to change the description, because it says over here that we're continuing to discuss the third grade literacy plan, when in reality, we're going to be discussing changing perhaps the strategic plan. And so it just needs to be clear on what we're doing, that we already have a third grade literacy plan. We've heard it, it's in our strategic plan, so I think we should just call it what it is, and then figure out if there's something more. But I don't even know how to prepare for this other than to go back and watch her presentation again. So perhaps you can upload that so we can see it again, and we have something clear so that I can compare that with the strategic plan and find out what our differences are, because that's really what we're talking about here, is changing the strategic plan of a board that passed this prior to new people being on it, and maybe have not read it in its entirety.
All
And
right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm jumping on here to the strategic plan because I'm hearing everybody together. I think everybody's saying really similar things. And so our strategic plan is 69 pages. It's an active living document. I don't believe it's a change to the strategic plan. I just think it's an update. And so I hear what Ms. Crable is saying. I think it's just for us to reference the page number versus just looking at 69 pages to say, looking at this and the presentation that we've already heard, we're going to adjust to meet that we've seen. And so that could already be updated on our website. But I think as far as supporting documents, it's looking like having the presentation from last month, but we're not going to go through it again, but looking at that and showing where on the strategic plan we're going to update potentially if the board decides to do so.
Perfect. Anyone else? If not, we'll carry on. Thank you very
So
much.
what is the decision? Like, what's going to show up on our agenda that gets posted on Friday?
We are going to have, I have no problem in changing it to, what would you like to, what would you recommend we call it?
I don't know. I mean, Ms. Bradford is the one who's bringing it up, but I'm suggesting that we talk about review of the strategic plan, which includes our literacy plan.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do. And I mean, you can describe it over there, but the item should be strategic plan
Okay.
update.
Literacy goal. We will name it Literacy Goal Review. And we will upload Dr. Faison's presentation and that part of the strategic plan.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And we will cut that back to 5 minutes. New business, call to audience. We want to look at the possibility, let's say 10 minutes for that. Look at different ways. We did have a concern with last month. We also want to look at the possibility of more, right now we have 5 slots that we have in person. So we could look at the possibility of maybe, with COVID being hopefully mostly behind us, that we could have more in-person call audience where they could sign up here. We have, the 30 slots. We could maybe go 15, but we'll have that discussion. Or we could do it all in person, but that will be about a 10-minute discussion. We have to come up with it, so please bring your calendars. B is public input meetings. We do need to get our 3 dates, so please bring your calendars for those. So-
We need to correct the wording. It's public participation meetings according to policy 2300.
Participation, not a problem.
Mr. Chairman, if we're going to do that call to audience thing, can we set a limit on how much debate each person can have? Because 10 minutes, one person can take that 10 minutes.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, we will definitely set that. Why don't we move it up to 15 minutes? So we
Mr. Wildebohr?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
If we go back to the parliamentary board norms that we talked about in our second training prior to the new board being sworn in, that we allowed 5 minutes per person. They could speak 2 times, 5 minutes total, that we had agreed to that after Mr. Weber's parliamentary thing, and then we never did get the board to the new board to chime in, because nobody wanted to agree to anything as far as that goes. So that might be a time where if we're talking about board expectations, then that might be a time we talk about it, in there. But that's what we have agreed to. That's the last document on record.
Okay. Keep to that.
And I can share the notes from that meeting if you want me to.
Sure. Please do. Then we have board attorney. That is, I believe, to discuss our attorney going forth in next month, or excuse me, in June. Let's give that also 10 minutes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think it would be helpful for all of us if we make sure that we have the current contract uploaded, as well as the addendum update that we did in June that extended their contract, because the current contract says that that we can extend for 3 years, 1 year at the time. So the new board members may not have read that contract and may not have read when we extended.
Okay.
So, and it's my impression from reading what you say, we will discuss and review just preparing an RFP. So we could vote not to prepare an RFP.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Then we have.
So whatever we need
Yes,
to do an RFP, we'll be prepared for that in terms of, we know what we need to do. Y'all have that? That's a form, isn't it?
That would be
Ms. Sutton. So I would put her name under their department, the
Mhm.
person who's going to lead the discussion on that, because she'll have the rules on how we do that.
So do you
That's
just
what I
want a
meant.
discussion about how we go about doing the RFP?
Yeah,
Is
the
that-
rules on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Mr. McManus?
Question, once again, just remind, the deadline for board attorney is,
We, contract goes through June, I believe.
June, the end of June, and we have 30 days to change it.
Mhm.
30-day option.
Ms. Brinson, how long will you need for esports?
10 minutes are fine.
10 minutes for that?
And I had a question about that, Mr. Woodward.
Yes, ma'am.
The salary, it said a monthly salary, is that on a 10-month basis, or is that a 12-month basis?
10.
Okay.
Okay.
And I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know exactly what esports were, so I looked, and it looked like it was violent video games. And so please share with us next week, what actually it is.
Yep, that's the plan.
Thank you.
And
Karen.
there is a presentation uploaded.
Carrying on. Committee reports. Does anybody have any committee reports that they'd like to
I
share?
may have a SHAC report, because we have a meeting the day before.
Okay. Sure.
And I think you have sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you have the Head Start report that I sent you.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
would that be there? I know last time it got added under information, but it's fine to be a committee report.
Okay. We'll add that right in there too. So we'll have SHAC and Head Start. Anyone else have a committee report they'd like to share? No? We'll give you guys plenty of time, so we'll have 10 minutes for that. Yes, ma'am?
Well, I didn't, I guess we had a public meeting yesterday. Do we want to do that at here on the finance committee discussion we had, or no? I'm not saying we have
Talk about it
to,
later. Yeah.
but I know there was a couple highlights. Maybe we could just,
Sutton,
That's
would-
not a bad idea.
Yeah, why don't we, Sutton, would you mind sharing that? Well, I guess a committee report, so, Rebecca, I guess you.
well, I wasn't expecting Ms. Sutton to do it. I just figured, I guess, for the public that didn't watch it, just kind of talk
Okay.
about what we went over. I mean, about the Capitol.
Capital outlay,
outlay.
absolutely.
Doesn't,
that-
doesn't have to be
that's a good idea.
major, just not expecting you to do it.
Oh, okay.
Would you,
You want me to just
If
do
you would
the
mind.
summary? of
Yes,
what
yes,
we
if
talked
you
about?
would,
Okay.
that'd be awesome, thank you.
All 8 of them.
Why
We get it straight.
why don't we put that in under information rather than, like,
Okay.
because you guys really aren't a committee, you're just they're the committee.
Okay, so we'll put that out under information, that would be letter M. Under information will be capital outlay committee report. Outlay committee report, okay. I don't know if anybody has
Another thing that
correspondence.
we left out was policy consensus. We do have one policy, 4400, that we approved, that needs to be put in policy consensus.
All right, thank you, so we'll put that as a separate line item.
Can you just say what that policy is? Just-
Attendance.
Attendance, okay.
And we discussed it a bunch, but what we adopted was the NCSBA recommendations for upgrades so that we could be up to date. We still have other things to talk about, but we did adopt those and opt to move them forward.
Didn't we do 3422? Looking at the list.
That was, the only one we moved forward was 4400. Josie, you can weigh in on
double check,
that.
hold on.
I was looking at my sheet.
We do 34.
Oh, and 3420, right, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I wrote
Yeah,
down, I wrote down
yeah,
both of
yeah.
those.
3420
Yeah,
and
I'm
4400.
3420
Yeah.
and 4400, yeah.
And 3420 was grading?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just
Okay.
there was the error.
So we'll put those under policy consensus. Correspondence, announcements, and then closed session. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to add? Anyone at all? About anything?
We can't add, but staff can add, right?
I'm sorry?
We can't add because the 6 days.
It's, yeah.
So it's just for staff if they want to add something.
Well, if they had anything
Well,
that they,
Right.
We did have, I put forward a proposal, and you and Mr. McManus agreed that it might be worth talking about rules of decorum for board meetings, and also about the masking issue, and then training for the board, the kinds of other trainings that we might need, and I'm not talking about Title IX, was talking about perhaps our board wants to learn more about bringing in the bystander or darkness to light trainings that our staff is getting that we can get for free. And then we can also get credit for those trainings through the NCSBA in our big accreditation, but we have to approve those because they weren't offered by the NCSBA. So that was one thing that I wanted to talk about so that we can make sure that we can take part in trainings that are happening now and that are current and get that stuff in before the end of the school year.
we will be putting those on in the April meeting, as mentioned.
All of those? We'll
Both of
we'll
those,
talk
yes,
about the
both.
masks there
Yes,
too?
ma'am. Yep, both of those. Okay, I don't think we have anything else, so,
Well, Mr. Chair, I have a question.
yes, ma'am?
I know this so far kind of going through has just been like a 30-minute session, and I don't know moving forward if the idea for this meeting was supposed to be just kind of move through the headlines or actually for us to ask the questions, but I feel like we will be more productive if we're able to ask the questions.
Yeah, no, that's why I was saying, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Well,
about the agenda.
I just feel like with the consensus items that we're talking about, I don't know if we're supposed to be hearing from people prior to, or just looking at, and if I have a question, just type in. Because I feel like going through the headlines is, I don't want to waste our time. And so I want to be very intentional with what we have brought forward. And so some of the suggestions, like documentation that Ms. Crable brought up and things like that, I think is beneficial for these kind of conversations. And, yeah, I guess that's where I'm at as far as if we should be having the presenters of these things or whatever it's going to look like to follow
Well,
questions.
yeah, again, if you have questions about it, then you can bring it to them, but if we do the presentations here, then we might as well just kind of have the board
Tonight,
meeting
okay.
now. And just, so, if you have questions, though, like, say, for instance, you had a question about changing the path for low-performing schools, can you tell me more about that, or you had questions, you can answer questions now. So hopefully we'll get answers now, or it could be that the presenters maybe don't have it all together, their presentation totally done yet, but they could answer those questions in their presentation. So that way there, it becomes more fruitful, and you're not wondering next week or even this week what's going on.
So then, can I ask,
Absolutely.
I don't mean to put Dr. Faust on the spot, but are there gonna be certain things that you highlight? Because I know we've gotten some emails from people about potentially the light speed, which hasn't been rolled out yet, but I had some feedback and questions about that, and I don't know if that's gonna be addressed in this agenda. That was one thing that I had written down, along with some of, and I know we're working on the board packet information and questions with that, so I don't know if now is the time to ask those questions, or
So-
that's where I'm
Sure,
confused.
the only thing that we discuss is what's on this agenda. Those are not on that agenda, so they won't
Okay.
be brought to the board meeting.
Okay.
Definitely
Chair.
address
Mr. McManus is
Yes,
trying.
sir.
Yeah, he's been,
Well, that's what I was just gonna say, my understanding of what we've been doing, with consensus, because you mentioned consensus, like, is pull it for discussion. And then if there are 3 left for consensus, we approve, and then we discuss what was pulled. I think that's what we're still doing. Or-
Yeah, Ms. Walker?
so yeah, the point, so to Ms. Barnard's, the point is to ask the questions here about any of the consensus items. That way we won't have to pull them. And that way, if there's anything you need answers to, the staff is here to answer them.
Yep, so if you have those.
And that was my
Favor?
point, is that, because I said last time I had called, to Bill Rivenbark to ask, what did they do? And so they try to get all consensus items, and that's why, thank you very much for having the attachments, because I could read them before today to see if I had any questions for those. But yeah, that's what I thought, but that brought to mind something I skipped over one of my notes, is perhaps, either in this meeting right here, we can talk about, I'm still unclear about this new format. I'm not sure what we can say, what we can't say, how much discussion we go into. So just so we're all clear on it was my impression that the consensus items were ones that we could ask questions here now.
Mhm.
And then, so that we didn't have to pull them at the meeting. If we still had questions, then obviously we would pull them again we would pull them at the meeting.
Mhm.
But that was my understanding of what this was all about, and the rest was just to make sure we were clear on what we were actually talking about, and we did make some of those changes. So is that the
Yeah,
intent?
I would agree, and I think it's important, that's why I'm kind of going through the agenda, but if you have, please stop me, that's why, or don't stop me, because I may not have the answer, but stop, if, like to say, anti-bullying, and if you want to get more information or whatever, if I don't understand, as you did before, you brought up the 3rd grade literacy. I'd like to have more information, and I think that's why we have this time, so we can discuss that. Not saying we're not going to discuss it again next week, but at least we can have an idea, and also it helps our senior staff to prepare all this, where did this question come from? That way they're not trying to scramble the night of and say, well, I don't have, we've had that situation too, where somebody comes up and says, I don't have that information in front of me right now. That way we can be fully prepared, they can be fully prepared, we can all be fully prepared for the meeting and get the best out of the meeting as possible for our students and our staff.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am?
then I'm clear.
Ma'am?
Yeah, and I think we're morphing here from the agenda reviews that we had, which were a lot more free than we've been yet here. But the idea was to take the closed session off of the regular meeting, save an hour, and really it's like an hour and a half, 30 times 2, plus 5, plus the transition time, it's a good hour and a half. And to streamline the meeting so that we're not here for so darn long. So if we can ask these questions here in a free flow of ideas without, any big dissension, that was kind of the goal. And this one's freer than the last one, so we can kind of hope that next one is maybe just a little bit more free as we loosen into this thing. But the idea was that the city and the county, their meetings are pretty quick, and they get right down to the people's business. And that's the goal, is to get down to business and get us out of here at a reasonable time.
Thank you, both.
Anyone else have anything else for today? If not, I would,
So
we do
Ms.
have.
Barnard, did you have any questions you want to ask?
I'm sorry, Mr. Wildewer. So I'm looking back over the budget are the things to me that I just would like clarification, just because I'm learning the process, and I know Ms. Sutton is the person for the budget adjustments, but then as well as the bid, are the bids something that we're approving on this on Tuesday night, or, because I see the alternative 1, 2, 3 bid, but you're just showing us that you did your due diligence for the 3 bids, and this is where you guys are suggesting for us to approve to move forward for I'm going back and forth, I'm chopping, for Alderman Elementary windows and doors. Oh, it's Eddie, I'm sorry.
So,
You guys look alike.
Oh, wow, wow.
so for Alderman Elementary in the, see, it should say, under recommendation, so we're asking the board's approval to award the contract for construction to Stonehenge Building Incorporated in the amount of $329,012. All of the other information, the contract form, the bid tabulation, and the recommendation letter from the architect or design team, it's just there for your reference. And for the budget amendment, that would mean that what we voted on, what the board voted on during last budget season, we need to amend the budget because we need either to free up, and Ashley can actually share more about what it is. But anytime we do an amendment, then we've got to probably take this one going.
But we have money, we're just reallocating it, is that what's happening?
That's correct. Now, there is included in there, in the local current expense fund amendment, there's an additional fund balance appropriation where we've gone through to see how much we could move in different areas related to the increase in salaries, and also remember we got a reduction from the state because of decline in student enrollment. So we went through and we tried to identify any savings in this current year's budget, and we've moved to try to cover those additional expenses. And that's how we came up with the fund balance appropriation. It's approximately $1.3 million that's needed there. So that's what that number is. At this point, we are not going to have to go to the county commissioners for the local current expense fund amendment, because their piece of this amendment, because it's fund balance appropriation, it's not the county's appropriation of funds that they give us. So when they're saying movement between those purpose codes, it's based on the funding that we receive from them. So this isn't going to require approval of the county commissioners.
In the budget amendment and the award of the contract for aldermen are not connected.
Okay.
Yeah, so the funding for award of the contract for aldermen had already been approved by the board, allocated or budgeted, and what we're presenting is within the board approved budget.
Right.
Ms. Bradford?
So I'm just learning my way, and when we get these board packets from Dr. Faust and the information that's contained in there, is there any point in time where we discuss what that is, or it's just for informational purposes only?
Those are my weekly updates from me to you.
So it's just information, we won't ever discuss that unless,
If you have a question, you can definitely call me.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's like my week review is basically.
Yeah, I couldn't understand the list of books and why you sent it, and so I was trying to understand that. And was it something we were going to talk about today? Was it on the agenda? I didn't know. I didn't know if you were talking about it in the superintendent's report or what. Okay.
But we are allowed to share that information with people. The information you provide, we're allowed to share.
And he definitely, yeah, I think he usually actually proves, if you have a question, please call me, so.
Okay.
have those
And if
conversations.
it looks like something that we want to put on the agenda, then we can. But it's basically just us to have the info.
Mr. McManus?
I don't know if you want to call it a budget meeting or.
Well, yes, we can.
But did you get a copy of this?
I don't know what that is.
Okay. I think you missed the budget meeting, but we had
Yeah.
4 different issues. Of course, one, all the furniture was approved. At least the board, hopefully will approve that. So these were 82 things that were presented. We could afford 8. And so that's, if you get a copy of this, I think it'll help you understand
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
the process. And
I'll
then,
include that.
I don't want to take away
March.
Eddie's
I'll bring
thunder,
those.
but a lot of these things have been left out before, so over time, they gained momentum and support to progress up to the next level. And that was what we discussed at the meeting, and the rationale for how this was approved or wasn't approved.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on our agenda is closed session. I would entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant, and hopefully I have these right, General Statute 143-318.11, A and 1, and A and 3 to prevent disclosure of confidential student records and information protected under General Statute 115C-402 and 20 U.S.C. 1232G, and to consult the board's attorney and preserve student-client privilege. Is that correct? All right, thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Ms. Mason, Ms. Bradford, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? We're now in closed session.
Yeah, just ask for that.
Okay, that's versus, that's the one partnership. I think you can let her know that that doesn't allow any of our games.
And basically, part about where we're at, what we've done, and what they're looking for. And then Charlie gets into just, we're going into more explaining the, benefits of it, collaboration, working with the team, those kids, STEM skills.
And
I did, in the budget.
like one of the high school, like athletic starting, same as a coach.
And it will have to be longer because there's a fall league and then a spring league. A fall session and a spring session. So they very well could be doing youth sports the whole year.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like very similar to our cross country coaches or also our track coaches. So
were you gonna text her?
That's clarity. I'm gonna go back. But what did you say? So,
But, and then I'm gonna share this with you, what's this?
to racial.
Racial, because they're gonna wonder like, why are you in this? So here, I wanna show you this. Look. This is our bullying and harassment investigation conference. Let's link this in there
So I
somewhere.
don't even have to create that slide.
No, you just need to link it, this is the whole process. Let me, it's in Drive, and so you can use the link. I was just pulling it up, because I'm gonna use it in the board meeting.
Section 3 or 4 introductory slides. And I was thinking,
So I wanna put this in there somewhere to make sure that.
I'll put that.
Funny guy.
I already did that one.
You're a funny guy.
I will never be able to retire. No, I don't need to retire because I'm
So that's,
not working in a location that I can retire from. Cape Fear Community College isn't really, so it's.
We're good.
Life's funny like
Calling us back into open session, our final bit of business for today, unless we have something else, is to adjourn. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work today. You good?
I'm good.
Hey, Julie, I said we can.
I got a ride.
is she down there?
Where she is, and she's here. I did. I texted her in there. I was like,